Tonight on The Al Denson Show, join Al and his guests, Stephen Benson. Special performance by Al Denson and Stephanie Kelly. Answering your email questions, Dr. Tim Clinton. Jeff Calhoun and the Al Denson Show Band. Now, here's your host, Al Denson.
All right, hey, baby. Hey, welcome to the Al Denson Show. My name is Al Denson. This is my sidekick, Jeff Calhoun, the Al Denson Show Band. And listen, we're glad you guys have tuned in. Now, if you've never watched an Al Denson Show before, let me explain why we're on TV. We do our best to kind of get parents and kids to kind of start talking about stuff that's going on in everyday life. And one thing we're talking about today on the Al Denson Show is it possible to have peace in perilous times? Let me explain. You know, you got parents that have major fear, anxiety, and stuff like that. And kids, they have a lot of anxiety now because you stop and you watch the news. Every time you watch it, like you see parents are afraid to send their kids to school because all the things that are happening in public schools. And, you know, as we progress, just the fear that's going on in America, then all of a sudden September the 11th happens and terrorism's hit us. And, you know, it's wild, but it seems like the anxiety level is just raised so much. And in fact, they say that since September the 11th, the anxiety medications just to kind of get yourself calmed down has increased by like 10%. So what we're trying to do on this show is talk about, can you have peace in perilous times without having like to turn to a pill or a bottle or something like that? Well, here's what we did. We went out and asked kids this question in public schools. It was pretty simple. We said, do you think it's possible to have peace even when you face danger? And here's what the kids had to say.
I don't really believe that anybody can just be so peaceful that it wouldn't hurt anybody. That's just my view on it.
As long as they don't bother anybody, then they'll have peace.
I think people can have peace, like, for themselves, like, maybe if they, like, own, like, their own little estate of land and, like, they're, like, out in the open and they don't have to deal with, like, city life.
As long as you know God, you can have that peace in any situation.
You know, let's be realistic. These are perilous times in which we live in, but listen, that doesn't mean we're doomed to live a life of fear and anxiety. You know what? We want to talk about how in the world do we find peace. Listen, it's tough to really understand how we can grasp the concept of peace and put it in our heart of hearts and live it in our daily lives. That's what we're going to talk about right here on the Al Denson Show, so don't go away. We'll be right back. Got it? Fear or fear not? You know what? Is that possible today? You know, Tim, ever since September 11th, people have more fear. Things have changed in America. It's a different world that we live in today. And a kid wrote this email and said, man, I can't stop thinking about that. I still live in fear. Can you help me? What do I do?
Fear is not necessarily a bad thing. You know that? Fear is something God gave us. If you see a snake, all right? I don't know if you're like me, but if I see a snake, I mean,
I don't like snakes.
I'm thinking about going the other way.
Absolutely.
And see, that's an emotional response. It's what you do in your fear that matters. When fear turns into worry, okay, your emotion then has now affected the way you think. What should you do? Number one, talk. Talk about it. There's something magical that starts taking place when you're able to talk to other people
about
your fear. What's going on, the thoughts, and it's the absence of information that kind of messes us up. You know what I mean? We're left to thinking all kinds of bizarre things are going to take place.
Yeah.
Talk it through, talk it down. Okay? In talking, spend time together. People, when they get afraid, they often isolate. They go alone. That's not a time to do that. If you're afraid, get with other people.
Sure.
I mean, there's safety in the arms of other people. I'd also emphasize the word truth. Get into the truth. There's nothing to fear in this life if God really is in control. And so when you're afraid, okay, you need to step back and ask yourself, is God bigger than that Goliath that I'm staring at right now?
Sure, if God is for me,
who can be against me?
That's the way it works. Well, you know what? Have a parent, and this is a good fear question for parents, and I think my parents felt like this for me and my brothers a lot, and I guarantee your parents felt like this for you as well. But this is from a single mom. She goes, I'm a single mother, I'm raising a couple of children, you know? Sure. And with all the violence and all that stuff going on in the schools, and I take a look in TV, and I just get scared to death of my kids, so what do I do?
In that case, maybe the real issue is loss. I mean, here she is, single-parent mom, she's dealt with some stuff, and I mean, it's real stuff. And think of the kids leaving now, and it's more thoughts of being alone, those kind of things. And by the way, then I start worrying something bad's going to happen because I've gone through that loss. I don't want to go back there anymore. And it becomes a real difficult scenario to work your way through. Let me go back to the word truth. Philippians 4, Paul said, rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. Be anxious for nothing. In other words, don't be overcome by your circumstances that are going on. But in everything, through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. So don't worry, what? Pray.
Yeah, but is it possible for this lady to have peace of mind?
Oh,
single mom and all.
That's exactly what that's what the passage is going to tell you, Al.
I hear it, but is it possible? Can that passage be real in someone's life?
Absolutely, because when you surrender your stuff to God, believing that He's there, and then change your thinking. If you follow that passage on the rest of the way through, what it says, now think on those things that are above, good report, those kind of issues. When you change your thinking to God's thinking, then the God of peace will let the peace of God rule in your heart.
Thanks, Tim. That was very well said. Now look, you got to hang out and see this next guest. His name is Stephen Benson. You want to know what fear is? This dude got kidnapped. I'm talking about he got kidnapped, and then the kidnappers demanded a ransom from his parents if they ever want to see their son again. This guy's been through it. He understands what fear is. So do me a favor. Don't go away, because you got to meet this guy. His name is Stephen Benson, coming right here on The Al Denson Show.
You know, I've been doing ministry a long time, and I think the thing that I've noticed the last 2 years is that people are finally saying, I need a safe place where I can talk to somebody about what's going on inside of my heart of hearts. So I want to encourage you guys, if you have a computer, log on to our website. It's simply this, www.aldenson.com. When you log on there, you'll see our homepage, and on the left, you can see all the different categories and places you can click and different sites you can look at. At the same time, you'll notice right there in the front and center, there's a prayer request. And we've created our own staff just to be able to respond to you and to answer you and to help you. And I want to encourage you guys, if you want prayer, if you've got something you're praying about, here's what will happen. When you click prayer request, you'll get a form. You just simply fill that form out. When you get done with that, you'll send it to us. We'll take it. First thing we'll guarantee to do for you, we'll respond back to you. We'll let you know not only that we're praying for you, but we'll let you know what God says about your situation you're going through. At the same time, we print those out. We scratch out your name to keep you confidential. And we got some churches that pray for you. And they will pray for you in that specific need that you have. Also on our website, you can click over to Bible studies. Guess what? You can do a Bible study every single day. And it's pretty cool. At the same time, we get so many different letters from kids on some common topics. And we've identified those to be about 34 topics. And you can run down these 34 topics: anger, frustration, suicide, and there'll be some things that will encourage you and help you. Those topics not only will help you, they'll help you when you have other people that you're trying to help that have those problems. We've also got what I consider to be a great site, and it's about our television show. If we're talking about a topic, whatever that topic is, we take all the research and all the notes that we've done, and we create a book on it. And we take this book and we simply offer it to you. You'll click on the TV icon. The minute you get there, you'll see a different page for that. You can click on the booklet offer, see all the covers of the books. Click on which book you want, fill out the form, and we'll mail you that book. It has been amazing to me how many people email us, how many people write us, and just let us know what's going on. And I want to say thank you very much.
Welcome back to the Al Denson Show. You know, we're talking about fear, and I'm sure if I brought every single one of you guys that are watching this show, if I brought you on here one at a time and said, tell me about, the most scary moment you've ever had in your life, I'm sure everybody have a story. And it's kind of wild. It's as I go through life, I always run into people and I hear them start telling a story, and then you meet somebody else and the next story is worse than that, and the next story is worse than that. And I'm fixing to introduce you to a man named Stephen Benson. And I've also asked his father to be on here, John Mark Benson, just to talk us through this story. Because when I heard this story, I thought to myself, okay, I hadn't heard one as scary as that. And, we talk about fear, and we wonder where God is in the midst of this. This young man I'm fixing to introduce you to, he got kidnapped. And kidnapping ended up running into ransom, and believe it or not, the kidnapper ended up in court. So there was a good victory at the end, but still there's a lot of fear during the process. And I want to introduce you to them. They've been very gracious to come. Y'all do me a favor. Please welcome to the show Stephen Benson and John Mark Benson. Hey, buddy. How y'all doing? Look at them. This is a father and son duo. Now, Stephen, I'm going to start with you because really I want to feature you since you're right in the middle. How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
And when you went through this kidnapping that you're fixing to tell us about, how old were you then?
I was 19.
Okay, so this is real fresh.
Very fresh.
Tell our viewers what happened.
I was driving back from a Sunday school Super Bowl party, and on my way home I stopped at this red light. As I was sitting at this light, a man jumped inside my car window. He grabbed me by the neck, and he put a gun to the temple of my forehead. He then drove me across the street to my church's parking lot. Then he dragged me out of my car and dragged me toward this other vehicle that had just pulled up. I saw a man with a trench coat in his right hand and had 3 sheets in his other hand. As I got closer to him, I could see people that I knew very well in my church, and I saw that as being my hope, that if I could just yell or something, that they would see me, I would be saved. Well, that never happened, and the man wrapped me up in the trench coat, and they threw me in the back seat floorboard of their car. We then spent a full hour driving to different ATM machines all over the Houston area.
Why are they going to ATMs?
They wanted money.
So they knew you had ATM cards?
They knew I had an ATM card
so
in
you
my
just
pocket.
stick it in and give them...
They had me under the car in the back seat floorboard the whole time. They had, the driver went up and did all that.
No, so you just told them what your numbers were and all that stuff? And
told them my numbers.
How much did they get?
They got nothing. 0.
You didn't have nothing, huh?
My PIN number didn't work.
Uh-oh, that's a bad thing.
That's a bad thing.
I mean, what'd they do? They just say, okay, we can't get money out of him and throw him out in the street? Or
well, I started to pray and to tell God, I'll do anything if I could just make it through this situation for him. Not testing him, but just telling him that. The car stopped, and they told me to call my dad.
In other words, those promises like, oh, God, just get me out of this,
right.
And I'll do whatever it takes.
Right, and I just realized that I wasn't doing what I should have been doing as a Christian.
So they stopped the car and tell you to do what now? Call your dad?
They told me to call my dad, tell him that my car was broken down, and not to tell him anything else.
So they're trying to lure your dad over here?
Right, they were trying to buy some time.
Okay, so you called your dad.
I called my dad, and I called, after 30 seconds of talking with my dad, I called him by his first name. And I've never called him by his first name, so he knew there was something up. And he said, Stephen, why did you call me John? And with that, the attacker took me out of the car, and they put me down on the ground. And he held the revolver right in between my eyes and said, now you're going to die. And I just remember seeing the driver get out of the car and running down the street, screaming, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. The driver finally came back to the car and said, let's not kill him yet, let's try to get the money from his parents.
So hold on, so you got the call. So where are you at when the call comes in? Super Bowl Sunday, where are you at?
We were at a friend's house, and we were having a party of our own, and after church, you know how that goes, and having a good time. I had just eaten, and the cell phone rang. Okay. And so I answered the phone, and it was a voice that I recognized, but it didn't sound like Stephen. It didn't sound like my son. I said, who is this? And he said, well, John, it's Stephen. And with that, the phone clicked off. And I knew, number one, he would never call me by my first name, and number two, he'd never hang up on me. And that was the worst moment I could ever remember. It was awful.
So you're at this party, so what do you do then?
I just started to leave, and I got out into the car because I thought, I've got to find him. Not knowing where to go, we went to the closest Jack in the Box, okay. And as we pulled up in the parking lot there, the phone rang again. It was about 20 minutes later.
Your cell phone?
Our cell phone rang again, and I thought, good, it's him again. And it was a very frightening man cursing at us, yelling at us, demanding, saying that he was going to kill our son, and he's in trouble, and you're never going to see your son again. We've got to have $3,000 in 1 hour. It was a kind of speech. I couldn't understand him exactly. And we were on our side of Houston, of course, and there was another side of Houston I didn't know, and he kept calling out names of streets I'd never heard of. And we talked for 20, 30 minutes trying to find out where to find, try to find out where to meet. And
so you didn't call nobody. You got in the car and said, we are in the car. You're on the cell phone going, okay, where do I go? Where do I go? What do I do?
We hadn't left yet, and he had said, if you involve the police, if you get anybody else involved, we will kill your son.
Now, how'd you come up with $3,000 in 1 hour? The ATM machines don't let you take out.
That's exactly right. At first I thought, man, that's no problem. I can get $3,000 to get my son back. And then the reality of going to the ATM and only getting $300 out. Yeah. And my wife was over with the manager of the store we always go to, and she was begging him for as much money as we could write a check for. And finally he gave us cash for $500. And I was talking to the guys, and I said, I can only get $800. Can I give you my car? You can have everything in my wallet, anything that we have, if you'll allow us just to have our son back.
And the whole time are you in the back, are you at peace knowing they got Dad on the phone, or?
No, after they got me back in the car, after they held the revolver to my head, they finally threw me back in the floorboard and wrapped me up. But strangely, very strange, I heard a song that our church choir had sung, that my dad's church choir had sung 3 weeks earlier.
And on the radio or something?
No, not on the radio. I thought it was, and I thought, how could I be hearing this song? And before I even...
Yeah, these guys like Christian music. All
yeah,
right,
I'm like, what's going on here? And then I realized that I started to smile. And I started to even sing out loud with this music. And many times they would lift me up and say, why are you so happy? I have a gun to your head. I could kill you. And so badly I wanted to say, I'm going to see Jesus. I'm going to be in heaven. But I couldn't even speak with all of my excitement.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that with a gun to your head. That's the last thing I would say.
I couldn't even speak, so...
So now you've agreed on a location, and then what happens?
All the way there, we drove about 30 minutes away, and through the streets of Houston, how busy they are, we were driving about 85, 90 miles an hour around the Beltway, down on the freeways.
I'm with you.
And the whole way, my wife is a very quiet, very subdued, very sweet person, and she was yelling at the top of her lungs her prayers to the Lord, asking Him to be saved, where He would not be harmed. And I just remember thinking, why waste your breath? I mean, I just want him back, whatever condition. I thought, there's no way they're not going to harm him.
Saying all that, honey?
Yeah, I'd heard their voices.
So then what?
We pull up in front of this one store that they say to pull up to. And what seems like an eternity, probably only 5 minutes, all of a sudden a man came walking around the store. And it was very noticeable. He was just sauntering over. He had this long trench coat on it, 70-some degrees on a January night in Houston, which is not unusual.
With humidity, right.
With humidity. And he comes walking up to us and just sauntering very slowly, never looking at us, but we know we're the only people around. He walks up to our car on my wife's side, and he says, give me the money. And he's very angry. And I started to hand him the money, but the first demonstrative I ever was, I said, I want my son back before I give you this money. And he said, listen, we could have killed him the first 10 minutes. Give me the money. And I'm telling you very nicely. It was a lot of cursing,
I understand.
a lot of screaming, and I handed him the money, just like, that's it. And he said, wait 2 minutes after I leave you. When I go around this building again, you sit here and don't move for 2 minutes, and then you'll find your son behind the store. Well, if we'd started with 50% thought of we're going to see our son again, we're now down to about 1%.
Right.
Because it looked very bleak, very, very dim. As soon as he left us, we started moving. And my wife was saying, don't move, and I couldn't wait.
I understand.
And we started moving, and about the time we started moving, we saw a car racing from behind that store and getting out on the freeway. And I just felt, they've got their money, they've got our son, and that's it. Yeah. And we came around the store, and as we came around there was a dumpster, and there's some other things back there, and we had our windows down, just yelling for Stephen, screaming for his name, for him to respond, and both of us, we've talked later, and both of us knew that we would never see him again. And as we came around the other corner and the other part, there was another dumpster at the very other end. My wife sees him, and he's waving his arms for us.
No
and
kidding.
We began to
Were you all out of
scream.
All the stuff was off, and you were just like you were
right,
when they pulled you out of the car?
During this time, right after they got the money, they told me to stand up and walk to this green dumpster. And the funny thing was, I knew I was going to die. I knew they were going to kill me. Yes, I saw their faces. I saw everything. So I began walking to this green dumpster, and I see that as my walk into heaven, because I know I'm going to walk right into heaven. And the funny thing was, I made it to the dumpster, and I touched it many times, just amazed. Yeah. So I looked back to see the guys, to see them have the gun at me or whatever they're going to do, and they're gone. That's when he saw them racing off, and I looked back at the dumpster, and I just started, just praying to God, thanking God, for the extra, extra time.
Stephen, living through that, what would you say to kids who are dealing with fear?
Well, I say fear is always going to be there, and the only way that we can overcome fear is by Jesus, by having Jesus in our life. I remember the promise that I made to God during this time, that if I made it through the situation, that I will always put Him first in everything that I do. And that was when my life turned from a Christian to a living Christian.
What a story. John, Mark, thank you so much. I can't imagine having that difficulty with my son. Stephen, brother, you're doing good, man, to have gone through some of that stuff. You look pretty normal. I think I'd still be freaked out, and hate the backseat of a car as well, But I'm telling you, look, we're going to do our best to wrap up what we're talking about on fear, because we all have fear. And, sometimes God might be allowing things to happen in your life because He's really wanting to get your attention. And like in your case, Stephen, He might have wanted you to say, okay, look, if you get me through this, I'll do anything. Now, I guarantee you, every single teenager watching this has said that somewhere in their life. But He made a lasting impression on you. It changed your life forever. So we're going to wrap it up when we come back here in just a few minutes. But listen, always keep us tuned in to The Al Denson Show.
Lord, I'm tired of hiding, lost in all these tears. I'm trying to carry all my pain alone. Been as strong as I can be, only you can rescue me. Now I'm stepping out in faith, I'll fall into your sweet embrace. Trusting you, I'm trusting you, I'm trusting you alone. I'm trusting you, trusting you, I'm trusting you alone. Jesus, I surrender, take me to your heart. Fill this emptiness inside of me. It's your love and nothing less that can heal my pain and brokenness. All I have, Lord, all I am, I place my life into your hands. Trusting you, I'm trusting you, I'm trusting alone. Trusting you, trusting you, I'm trusting you alone. Oh, alone. All I have, Lord, all I am, I place my life into your hands. Trusting you, I'm trusting you, I'm trusting you alone. Trusting you, trusting you, I'm trusting you, Lord, only you, trusting you.
Oh. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but only lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand.
Trusting you, trusting you, Lord, I'm trusting you alone.
I think it pretty much scared every American.
I didn't experience it, so I wasn't really scared, but for other people I was.
It was frightening because all the terrorists.
I didn't even feel like it affected me, and then I found out that my family was in there. And then it started hitting to home.
I want to thank you for watching this edition of the Al Denson Show. And you know, it is true. We can have peace in perilous times. Just as you heard out of Stephen Benson, man, eventually you can have peace. And I want to give you like 5 steps that maybe you can consider when you're starting to kind of get fearful and you kind of lose all that peace in your life. Here's the first thing you got to do. You got to admit the fact that you're scared. And once you admit the fact you're scared, the second thing you got to do is you got to commit that fear to God. You got to say, okay, God, here it is, man. I need all the help I can get. And then once you commit that, here's the next thing you got to do. You got to release it. You say, okay, God, I'm not going to be fearful anymore. I'm going to give this fear to you. And then after you release it, You got to resist the temptation. Because believe me, man, you release it, but the first thing something wants to happen, you want to look back down, see something on the TV, see something in the dark room, whatever, and you start to go back and have all that fear again. Then you got to start back over from the top. But let me give you the fifth thing you got to do. After you resist, you got to stand firm and know that Jesus Christ gives you the ultimate peace. Let me show you something. Peace in Perilous Times. You see this book? There's about 12, 13 pages in this book that are written just for you. We all have tough times, and we all need to have more peace in our lives. Trust me, every day, as long as you live, the older you get, you still need to have peace in your life. So I want to give you this book, and here's how you get it. All you got to do is log on to our website. It's www.aldenson.com. Once you click on that, you're going to see all this big front page come up, and you'll see an icon that says The Al Denson Show. Click on that. It'll take you to pages full of books. And as you scan down there, you'll see the book titled Peace in Perilous Times. All you got to do is click on it, and you can download it. In about 3 minutes, you'll have the contents of this book, and you can start understanding. Now listen, I understand if you're right smack dab in the middle of the perilous time, you might not want to run the computer and just click this thing. But let me tell you something. If you're not, go get it right now. Because what you do is you need to print it out and put it somewhere, because I'm guaranteeing you tough times will hit your life. It hits all of us. Hey, thank you for watching The Al Denson Show. We write these books to do our best to help you. It doesn't cost you a dime, so download it right now. And next time when you're scanning a TV station and you see us, click it. Keep it there, right here on The Al Denson Show.
Hey, hey. Hey, hey. Well, I won't run away from you.
We want to hear from you. Write us at The Al Denson Show, Box 220, Grapevine, Texas 76099. Or email us at aldenson@aol.com. Thanks for watching. And be sure to tune in next time to The Al Denson Show. The Al Denson Show is an outreach of Celebration Ministries.
We receive so many calls and letters from parents saying, help me, my kids are out of control. They have no respect for authority, they're hooked on drugs or on alcohol, they don't come home at night. What do we do? Well, I want to tell you about a safe place. This place is called Heartland. And Heartland is about restoring your child through a relationship with Jesus Christ. But they're uniquely different in the fact that they offer work programs to also instill discipline in your child and get a pride of respect for work in there. They have a dairy, they got a farm the kids work on, there's a Christian school the kids attend so they continue to get their education, there's recovery centers that the guys stay in, there's girls' homes that the ladies stay in. They hang out with other kids just like them. They're in Bible studies, they're focused programs, and it's all a part of restoring your teenager through a relationship with Jesus Christ. It's a safe place where you can send your child. If you need help, please email us. We'll send you all kind of information on Heartland. Hey, listen, our kids are worth saving. We've got to act now.